Hi, welcome back to another episode of Mix and Matchbox. I'm your host, Brent Feldman, and we are joined today by Carl Reed. Carl is the CEO of Composition Media. Hi, Carl. How's it going?
Hello, I am doing well. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for joining us today. Well, I know we got a chance to chat and connect a little bit, but I'll just jump right into the first question here for you, because you've worked across traditional and digital animation. And I know that you currently have a boot camp that you're running at Savvy Coders. But, from working between both of these lines across traditional and digital, how did you see, this moment with kind of AI coming? Comparing to kind of like that earlier shift that you saw when analog turned into digital.
So there are like direct parallels, right? In those times, he used to take, you know, literally 30 original drawings with pencil and paper on a pegboard, and you used to have to swirl the paper as you're doing it so you could see the animation as it's going. You get paper cuts and, you know, things, but it was part of the process, and it's part of those things people come to hate and love. And so when the transition to digital, and specifically rapid digital like Flash and Toon Boom, there was a lot of hesitation and fear to, you hear a lot of the things you hear about AI now, like the quality will never match up. I would never see that on TV or in film. And then literally, months later, a couple years later, rather, every single show on TV is done in one of these programs, and it's new studios have popped up, and it kind of took the entire industry. And you have folks that were just as hesitant as they are now, and for good reason. Whenever your jobs has the potential to be impacted, and there were jobs impacted, you don't see as many ink and paint artists, for instance. You still have to have that skill just in case you need it on a specific show, but you don't see that many dedicated ink and paint artists, and you don't see many scanners. Like, that was a job for humans to
Wow.
scan the actual animation slides in. And so, yeah, it did affect the job, but what it also did was it widened the field. So at that time, you weren't even able to really do animation in America. You could do keys and things like that, but you had to send it all overseas, just because our wages here are a lot more than over there. And it directly led to the opening of studios that wouldn't have been able to open any other way, like Powerhouse or Titmouse, or a lot of the studios here in the US that employ hundreds of animators at any given time.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. And actually, you touch on that transition, and my son was logging on The Simpsons, the episode where it turned from the old style to the new style, and you could see it. It was so kind of evident. Obviously, retain the character, no pun intended. Of all the the sort of animation, but at the same time, you could tell that transition happened. And and it's so cool. I guess I'm sure from your experience to see all these new studios crop up, and it actually create, yes, while it was challenging, I'm sure, but crop up a whole bunch of new opportunity for a lot of other people, which was neat. So
there's another parallel. At the time, you'd see, like, because the tools were so accessible versus having to learn how to do everything and have these big drawing tables with pegboards and have to have all the equipment and cameras to record the different slides and things like that. You had 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds uploading video games and animation to like Newgrounds at the time and things like that, and that led to a whole lot more content. That most of it was bad because these people are new, starting off, and they weren't professionals. But as soon as it was in the hand of the professionals, clearly it had a professional expectation. So that did lead a lot to the quality comparisons, and like, oh, this would never be ready for prime time, but it's just waiting for the tools to be in the hands of professionals, or for those early adopters to become professional.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh wow, we could probably get down a whole rabbit hole of elevating the quality, no matter what the medium is. But yeah, when people who know what they've got, the eye of what they're looking for. But actually, to be honest, that leads right into the next question pretty well, because right now your course at Savvy Coders, essentially an AI animation boot camp, you emphasize the idea of owning a style. So why is defining and training, the AI on a personal style so critical for artists working with AI?
Well, it's a little bit different. It's a little different. So you technically can't own a style. There's no owning a style, but you also don't want cookie cutter, you know, the same old look that just an AI would spit out by default. Because
Mhm.
of the way these things are trained and because of the, I guess, conditioning that these models go through, they could spit out something that looks the same as what every person that wants to type in a prompt and that's it could do. And then you would stifle innovation. How could we have a Spider-Verse or something that kind of bends the what people bends expectation with their style choices? So just because it's a different medium and you can rely on an AI agent or assistant as opposed to a human AI assistant, that doesn't mean you skip the steps of defining a unique style or giving a unique voice to your content. There's going to be a lot of cookie cutter stuff because a lot of folks won't take those extra steps to make their content professional. And there's going to be a lot more things that become kind of generic. Like I don't know about you, but I'm a little sick of Ghibli style caricatures on on social media. And that's no disrespect to Ghibli. I mean, it's still classics, right? But
Mhm.
as of right now, that interpretation of what a Ghibli style is a little kind of oversaturated at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know people, including myself. Oh my gosh. Don't, don't judge me. But yeah, I know, like, where you find out you can do something. And I mean, like, that goes back to, like, yeah, the dawn of computer. People get Photoshop and they're like, oh my, I could do something. And then it ends up just being regurgitations and nothing is good or different or original until, you get a chance to play with it. But I used the Ghibli, kind of,
Everyone did. Everyone.
yeah.
You're not alone.
And I was like, "Oh, look, it's my kid in Ghibli's, animation style. It's my dog." And that was fun. But well, what I found out, the other day from you and I chatting too, which was like very interesting about terminology. And you mentioned the importance of using the right industry terms, within prompting, almost like you would be giving, direction in anybody else, possibly on set. So can you share an example of how precise language changes the quality of what AI generated content really comes out?
So, one difference between amateur content and professional content, no matter how you do it, is consistency, right?
Mhm.
Consistency in film, you have to use a common nomenclature or common jargon. If I want a pan in, or I want push in, or a pedestal up, or a tracking shot, what does that mean, right? And so the same thing with AI. We kind of see in the course that we're doing with Savvy Coders, we are encouraging the students and teach them a foundational kind of set of terms and language that they can use so that there's consistency across the board. So when we're asking the camera to do the certain thing, it's been established by filmmaking for years and years. And as an amateur, you may not know these filmmaking terms. And
Mhm.
so leveraging the hundred some odd years of filmmaking is a lot easier than trying to come up with things yourself. That being said, AI does interpret things in unique ways. And so you have to be able to make sure that you're speaking to we like to see AI as a DP or a cinematographer. right? And just like you speak to your human AI or cinematographer, you want to make sure that they understand you as well. Because if you say you can go into a human cinematographer and say, I want this to feel emotional, and then you get back what you get back because you didn't give any detail. It will
Mhm.
definitely come back emotional, but that emotion might be pure abject joy, that crying tears of joy in an inappropriate part, right? And they might have toned the scene or gotten specific shots to for that emotion, but you have to be specific and you have to be clear and have an understanding that your DP, in this case an AI DP or cinematographer, understands what you're saying and is able to give you back that deliverable that you're looking for.
That's very cool. All right, I'm probably going to butcher the way I term this, but I happen to be somewhere and watching Hanna-Barbera cartoons the other day, and and yeah, I think it was a little bit of Yogi, and
Yeah.
and I watched him do the like a frame shake, where it was almost like, yeah, something happened, but it looks like, obviously whatever they were doing with the camera, the actual camera shook, not the animation in and of itself. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Not, but it just makes me think of like how that kind of thing could be translated in what you're telling in AI, just the same way, I'm sure that person had to go tell another person after animating it saying, hey, I need you to do this with the camera.
Exactly. And you know what? You bring up a great moment in animation history because there's some parallels between Hanna-Barbera and those and that movement uh, in TV to AI as well. There was an inability to produce TV animation before then because of costs and the time that it takes. And they revolutionized it. They use symbols and they have collars, so they may turn the head without having to animate the body. So they had all of these tactics that they came up with to increase the speed, reduce the cost, so that they could create content for TV. And then you have the Flintstones, which revolutionized not just animation, but sitcoms in general. You have, every Hanna-Barbera and every from Scooby-Doo and everything afterwards that followed that model that basically revolutionized animation at that time. And I mean, we have the potential for that to happen again.
That's cool. That's super fun. I guess, what models or platforms are you experimenting most with right now? And what do you see as maybe individually their strengths or their limitations?
So here at Composition, we kind of follow a principle where we have like three pillars. Whatever tool we use has to be accelerated. It has to speed up our process, or else why are we even using it, right? Then it has to be adaptable or adaptive. So we have to have control over it. Otherwise, we can't get the professional results that we expect. And then finally, it has to be artist driven, which means we have to be able to add those styles and add that artist influence, or else we wouldn't be able to have any difference from anything anyone else can do, right?
Mhm.
And so with that said, our models that we choose and any tool, even outside of AI that we choose, has to fit within that rubric. And so some of the ones that we're really loving right now, a lot of them are open source because we're able to actually get in there and modify and create our own tools and our own workflows with open source tools. And so WAN 2.2 with Vase, WAN 2.2, very high quality cinematic AI, but Vase allows you to edit things almost like going back in and making corrections, right?
Wow.
You have, of course, Nano Banana is pretty popular right now, so it does this very similar thing.
Hmm.
Also, C Dream 4 is like Nano Banana. Those both Nano Banana and C Dream 4 are like for images. It's like modifying images, like an editing model. So those are pretty exciting right now. We love the open source, not only because it allows for us to create tools that work directly for our pipeline, and modify those workflows and the tools. We can do it through Comfy UI. We can do it through custom tools, but we can generally also set our own models and lures up on our characters, on our styles, without worrying about licensing and if it's going to be retrained because it's local, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So
That's cool. Actually, I'm glad you stepped into the licensing sort of aspect of it, because that is I think that'll be it's interesting now. It's interesting how it'll progress. But compared to your big studio experience, what sort of new opportunities does AI open up for either individual creators, or people, small studios, that when it comes to retaining rights and creative control?
I will say now is the uh, most interesting time ever, and the biggest opportunity for individual creators that I've ever seen. Uh, at the same time that you have these tools that are democratizing access to content creation, you also have in the last 10 years a democratization of distribution platforms. So now you can not only create the content, you can get it out to people, and an unlimited number of people. To reach the amount of people that you have access to through social, through YouTube, through other platforms, through AVOD and things like that. In the past, it was just undoable. You just couldn't do it. You had to be greenlit by a studio or a broadcaster or a streamer in this case. But now you can do it yourself. A friend of mine, Jeff Rivera, he kind of coined the term green lighting yourself. And nowadays you can green light yourself and get your content. If you can produce it and you can figure out a way to produce the full content within a reasonable amount of time that doesn't, have you on the streets, then you can actually distribute and monetize your content and actually own that audience, have a direct one-on-one content co-develop with an audience. You then retain all of the ownership of your content. And it's to the point where, in the beginning of YouTube, the studios would experiment with the creators and say, hey, you know what, we want you to write this film because you're so popular. And they're like, well, I do 45-second content. What am I writing, a 2-hour film? It's not what I do. And so it turned out terrible. And it got to the point where now you can't really go to a huge influencer and say, hey, I want you to do this thing. They're like, okay, great. Well, here's what we want to pay you, and we want to own all the rights. And they're like, well, I make more than that in a month of streaming. Why would and I own everything. Why would I give you anything for this price? Right? So it's an exciting time for creators, right?
Yeah.
Where you're able to really own things. It's scary for the big studios. Like, again, it's unprecedented times. And so there's a little bit of seeding of these fear mongering of copyright issues and like art theft, but never in the history of time has an art style ever been protectable. Never in the history of time has the way that the means of production of an image ever been copyrightable or protectable. Never in the history. Well, I guess you can patent the means of production, but you can never could copyright or trademark that. It's always the end product, right? So if your end product, whether you create it, you can take a picture of Mickey Mouse off the internet and put it in Photoshop and then put it on a product, and you violate Disney's rights. And it's not Photoshop's problem. In the same way, you can generate something that violates Disney's rights right now, and it's up to you as the creator to say, here's my original idea, and ensure that it doesn't violate anybody's rights. And no one's lost any copyright protection or any rights, any ability to protect their content. They've only really, they just you have to meter yourself and make sure that you're not violating other people's rights.
Definitely. Actually, maybe that comes from a whole, another set of education people might want to think about is like, increasing their own media literacy and their understanding of, the things that could affect them as they do start creating. But in your own program, I know you're coaching students to, move from just playing with prompts to really bringing a vision to life through AI animation. So how do you do that? How do you kind of get people from like, just playing around to like, oh no, this is a reality as a career path?
Well, we don't if most people think and they're scared that someone typing some prompts into a video engine or AI generation engine is what they have to fear, right?
Mm.
You're never going to get anything professional. You can get some really neat looking stuff, but make a half hour out of it, right? It's not going to work. You have to understand filmmaking. You have to understand animation. And if you do, and you have those tools, that's when you're able to produce professional content, right?
Mhm.
And so we are encouraging, and not only encouraging with the course, we're teaching this new AI enabled animation. So it's not about necessarily just the AI tools. It's about filmmaking and about being given the superpowers of those tools, and then joining the X-Men. And my bald Professor Xness will sit there and say, this is how you use your powers, right?
Mhm.
And so because you can create things faster, doesn't mean you just, spew out a bunch of garbage that nobody wants.
Mhm.
You have to follow tools and techniques. You have to be responsible about what you do. You have to meter how you do things. You have to follow processes so you don't, so you get the result that you want ultimately.
Mhm.
And so that you could be employable, right?
Yeah.
Because one thing about that art school transition, sometimes folks come out of art school and a lot of art school is structured practice. So you get a long time to practice your craft, so you become good. But also you often get stuck in your own style. But when you step into a production environment, your style is no longer important. Whatever the style is, if the style is your style on the show, great. But if it's somebody else's style, who's usually the art director or someone else brought in, then you have to understand that style and you have to assimilate, right, in order to produce consistent professional content. And it's always a hard test from art school to production when everyone wants to be artists and take a million years on a production, and that's not what you're being paid for. You're being paid
Yeah.
to produce professional content, not be a starving artist.
Yeah. Wow. Actually, all right. So this one I don't have on the list, but now I'm really curious based on, how you're talking about how people, trying to monetize what, this is for them and turn it into a real career, and especially because like eventually after you go through a bunch of boot camps, I'm sure you're going to see, different people who want to do different things. But even now, do you kind of notice the people who are coming in with the eye of either an animator, an illustrator, an eye of like, the director, an eye of a writer, an eye of like, do you see that, maybe even after this, they may want to hone in on something very specifically to that career, that would help them accelerate, their ability to execute their own vision the best. Yeah. Are you seeing that
Yeah,
already?
I think everyone in the beginning wants to be a generalist and they want to be good at all things, but everyone goes through the trial of determining what they're best at, or they might not get to determine that. Sometimes the studio they work for or the projects determine whether what you'll be working on. But everyone typically starts out, broad scale, and then they get better in one area and are asked to do that more. And so oftentimes you get to choose that, but oftentimes the world will choose it for you. And it's no difference because you have superpowers now, right?
Yeah.
You'll still wind up, you know, on certain tasks in certain places, depending on how good you are there. I mean, because generalists are always valuable,
Mm.
but a specialist is just as valuable and oftentimes more valuable because they're, the master of none trope.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Well, I must thank you because you've really chosen to invest in St. Louis as a hub for, this kind of creative and tech talent you're looking to develop. What is your long-term vision for the city's role in the future of animation and storytelling?
See, just like this is a great time for, people to get into content because of the demand, the democratization of distribution and production. It's a great opportunity for us to do it from St. Louis. One of the reasons is because we have a great cost of living, and we have 4 seasons. You can get a home. You know, you live on the coast, and you've been working for Disney for 20 years, and you're still 4 people in an apartment, right, with 4 roommates, right? And you've worked on big movies and everything, right? And so it's notoriously hard to really have things in LA as a production crewman. And so here you can actually have a living, have a family, etc. So I think that's huge. And in the past, you weren't able to work from here and have big studio partners or have professional content out because all of that happened on the coast. And so now, again, what's happened over the last 10 years, and especially accelerated due to the pandemic, is, you know, our ability to work from anywhere. And because of that, we can do business overseas. We can do business on the coast, all from cozy, comfortable St. Louis, and we can eat some toasted Rav while we're at it.
That sounds great. I'm in for that. Well, for young animators or filmmakers, what skills should they be focusing on? Let's say maybe they are going to a traditional college or a school right now. What should they be focusing on in order to stay relevant in the industry, or where AI will be part of the creative toolkit in the future?
You know, there's going to be a lot of folks entering animation that aren't traditional artists. So they may not know how to draw. They may not know how to animate. They may not know how to do these traditional things. And there's going to be a place for them in the production lineup, in a pipeline. But definitely, if you do have all of those skills, it does make you a little bit more wanted, and you'll be able to ask kind of a higher price because you have those skills. So I'd encourage folks to continue to have a great knowledge of traditional means, but also don't be discouraged if you don't. If you want to get in and you do not know how to draw, or you don't have any animation experience, now's the time to really hop in, because you can get your foot in the door without having those skills, and then you can build those as you go along.
That's great. For, you know, anybody who has like a fear of, you know, what AI is, you know, sort of bringing to the industry, to, you know, the potential, you know, career paths of everybody, what do you say to anybody who's, you know, afraid of that, who's maybe just getting started?
You know, what's the worst that can happen, right? You know, the worst that can happen is your content gets rejected, which it happens to the best of us, right? You hear so many no's when you're shopping content, when you're creating content. As a matter of fact, a no isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? A no is could be a hit to your ego, but it could also be a sign that you need to massage your content, or you need to massage what you're doing in order to get more a wider group of people to accept your content, right? And so that fear, nowadays, you need to, you know, eat it up, accept that fear as a sign that there's something you need to work on. And even I tell people, you know, post content immediately, as broad as possible, as terrible as you are. Post it immediately and get feedback. And initially, that feedback might be mean. It might be terrible. You've seen these comment sections. They are mean, and there's no picture. You don't see the person in real life. So they're unfiltered, and they get as direct and as mean as possible with no consideration to your mental health. But with that said, try to accept that and have a tough skin, because even the worst trolls may have some point of somewhere that they're right? And if you just dismiss it because of the tone, or because of, you know, groupthink, or because of anything, then you could be missing something that could really take you to the next level. And a lot of people get stuck by not accepting commentary or criticism, and a lot of it has to do with tone. But those that can even comment back and say, hey, you know, under a comment that's discussed, oh, this is AI slop, it's trash, oh my God, this looks terrible, blah, 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 blah. You say, hey, what do you suggest I do better?
Hmm.
And they'll come in with, if they are interested, they might come in with a list of stuff and then apply it to your thing. When you respond and it looks better, guess what? Those people are going to see that and they're going to be like, it's a little better, but it's still slop,
Yeah.
right? And then it'll be less things. And then over time, they will feel committed and they will feel invested in your growth and your content. They have contributed to it along the way.
Hmm.
And then, the greatest joy is taking what can be considered a troll or a hater, and they're now a fan and inspiring you
Hmm.
along the way. And
Yeah.
if you can make that transition, you, my friend, are a Jedi.
That's cool because like, yeah, even if, derisive commentary can hurt, it's like one of those things where if you can use that, if you take, not just the feedback, but like you said, the engagement of
Right.
somebody who's willing to participate in the process of making a creative product better, that's so valuable. So,
Absolutely. Now we also have to deliver too. And so the biggest thing is delivery. And that's why I say post immediately. Like
mhm.
post something because you have to finish to post.
Yeah.
And one thing about being a artiste or a starving artist is you want to spend a million years and get things perfect and redo and redo and redo and fix and polish and polish and polish. Or production pipeline, you have to turn it in by a due date and that's it. So you
Mhm.
have to have a floor that you have where you're saying, okay, if I need to bring it here and it's good enough to ship. Now, if I get there and I still have time left, I'm going to elevate it and I'd like it to be up here. But I've met my threshold. I need to deliver, right?
Yeah.
And that delivery, you might be terrible, but you don't have all time in the world to practice because someone out there is gaining audience and gaining fans and, putting out content that may overlap with yours. And so get out there and publish. And also another thing is until you publish, there's no way to correct. There's no way to do something different because, without publishing, you can't analyze what you did differently, what you did wrong, and then apply it to the next project.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've just got one more question for you,
Yeah.
and it's really like looking ahead. How do you see, AI changing the balance between artistic direction and technical execution? Because there's a lot that can happen on both of those fronts and all the way in between. But how do you see that changing? That sort of balance, and then what's exciting about that shift as you're at the forefront at it of it.
I don't know that balance will shift
Mm,
because you have to deliver and you have to, for professional content, you're doing an art piece, play around all you want, be as artistic as you want. But from a professional standpoint, if you want to get a TV show out or a film out or something like that, you have to deliver. So the technical prowess and the technical execution has to always be there. A certain level of artistic integrity and understanding what people want to see and what's aesthetically giving is huge. Now, so I don't think that tug of war will ever change, but if now folks are able to do way more and lift what they're capable to do in a given time, so aesthetics are going to shoot through the roof. We can already get higher quality in less time. So what will that do to productions? Hopefully, people don't say, oh, we have less time, let's produce, or we have more time. I mean, we can execute in a faster time. Let's produce trash. I
mhm,
believe that people will use that extra time or deliver higher quality within that time, right? So the artistic level will increase. Now, like I said earlier, there's going to be a lot more stuff. So you have to realize that before AI, when an entry level person in animation would hop in, it would be terrible, hard to even know that they're doing animation,
mhm,
or and that floor has risen so high now that even at the basis, it may still be not perfect, but it's way higher. You can just type a prompt and get something that's pretty neat. Might not be professional, but it's pretty neat. So that floor has already risen. So that ceiling is going to rise as well. And then on the technical expertise, if we're able to, be a small team of artisans that can get together and produce a film that competes with Disney within a reasonable amount of time, that we don't, all get thrown out of the house, that that's groundbreaking from a technical standpoint. If you have been working at these places, and there's some folks that work at Pixar for the last 20 years and are the only person that they'll let touch a particular character, so they've been animating that character specifically for 20 years, right? Or they've built up such a great skill set, and they'll come to me and pitch me some content that they've been working on for 30 years, and that everybody has said no, no, no. So there's always been that gatekeeping thing. But what if they could get together, a small group, and put together something with their technological expertise and their artistic expertise that rivals some of the largest companies? We truly are in a different world, and it's a great time to be alive from a creative standpoint. It's a little scary from a company standpoint, but I think all of that will balance out.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I really appreciate all you said. And actually, I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but, a lot of it seems to like parallel that of like, the music world too, is essentially, and like, yeah, there's a lot of it out there. You really have to work on obviously building up your, your fan base or whoever is, potentially going to pay attention to your media, but just also the tools enabling creators where, before, where, maybe somebody, they weren't able to play a particular instrument, but, now they can plug in a track and program it, and then boom, they're able to be, maybe an artist alongside another bigger artist where they wouldn't have had that opportunity further in the past. But, I think it reinforces the fact that new tools and things that AI is bringing to the table just will hopefully enable a new set of artists, or maybe, the artists who have been pigeonholed, like you're saying, and, haven't been able to, execute on a larger vision. They can now bring that to life because they have everything at their disposal to do that. So I like you. I think this is it's a cool period of time to be in.
It really is, but what you said is very accurate. It's not new. That same discussion, you had folks going from tape in digital, tape and analog mix boards to digital, and I don't hear the crackling, and music sounds terrible now. And then the same thing with digital cameras to traditional. I need to see the grain, and it's the same conversation. He said they're going to put photographers out of business. You can do it from your iPhone, and it just didn't happen, right? It changed definitely, and some people lost their job, but the medium grows and it continues to grow. Right. And in those cases, we're in the same period of time. What you really have to focus on, all of the people that really took hold in those times are the early adopters. And the people that hopped in and said, what, I see this change and I'm not afraid to dive in. I dive in understanding that I'm going to get a little wet along the process and take that leap, and you emerge on the other side as a leader sometimes. So you have a head start. So I encourage, that's one reason why we're doing our course, and we're hoping to not only bring on folks that we can directly hire for our studio, but also there's a lot of folks in our first cohort even that they want to start their own studio, and they may be a comic artist or some other kind of tangential artist that they're like, I just want to add to my personal industry and my personal fans and everything. And so we're hoping to help build that ecosystem and see the next generation of leaders emerge from these early adopters.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, yeah. Any other plugs for composition media, your course with Savvy Coders that you want to put out there?
Yeah, we're starting another cohort. It starts October 20th, I think. And so now's the time to kind of really get your bid in, and go to savvycoders.com and sign up for the course. We take everyone from beginning to professional. We end with a demo day where we bring businesses and everything over to potentially hire folks as they come through. In the course, you build not only a portfolio, but your capstone project is a 2 to 3 minute short film. And so I've won a few awards for short films, and so we're really not taking shorts on the short film side. We're really producing things we can be proud of, and it should be a testament to our students' skill set, and be able to hopefully land them some strong placements, not just with us, but with other partners as well.
That's awesome. Wow, that's cool. Well, I'm really looking forward to what you're doing, yeah, with AI in general, with obviously with St. Louis, and then also just all the talent that you're growing here in the area. It's awesome. So thank you so much for chatting about it on the podcast here.
No, anytime.
Awesome. Well, this has been another episode of Mix and Matchbox. I am your host, Brent Feldman. We'll be back soon with more content. Please like and subscribe. Thanks.